sure you guys hear me. Alright. Just give me a second, guys. I'm just get everything set here. Alright, if you're just joining, just hang on tight 1 second. I'm just trying to get the stream out so we can get everyone to see. Okay. Alright, so welcome. This is Spike Pap here. Now, this would be the weekend that we would be at Biggest Little Fur Con. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic right now, we are unable to hold that. That has been postponed till Halloween weekend, so it's still quite a ways away. So I figured, since we are not in Reno right now, I figured why not teach you a few casino games. Of course, Biggest Little Fur Con is held at the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, Nevada. Well known for their entertainment over there. Some excellent place to go to. Even if it's not a fur con, you got to go there. So what I will do is that I will teach you a few casino games, as well as some proper etiquette when you approach the table on how you should be playing. Before I go into any casino games, I have to tell you what you should be doing before you even get into a game. Now, anytime that you are going around looking for a particular game, I know that everyone's going to be thinking about getting chips. You'll be doing that when you get to the table, but always check the table, see if there's any space at the table. If there's an empty chair, you can go ahead and sit down. If it looks crowded over there, there tends to be another table nearby, but be sure to also check the table for the minimum bet. On a typical week, usually the lowest that the Grand Sierra Resort will go for their table games is $5 minimum. Usually on crowded nights, they'll bump it up to 10. Of course, each of the tables there is some variance as to the minimum bet. Some of them will have like $10 minimum bet. Some will have 25. The high roller tables, they have a minimum of $100 bet. Sometimes a little higher. I won't bother going into the slot machines because there's really no skill in them. It's just more about choosing which machine you're going to go into. And plus, you can't really manipulate the machine. That's because that's something the casino sets themselves before they even run that game. Now, when you approach a table, now of course, when you get your chips, you're going to take your dollar bills and you're going to ask the dealer for change. And be sure to put that money anywhere that's not in a betting area. Otherwise, they may mistake it as a bet, and you don't want to put all that in one hand. For me, I typically go in usually at $100 when I go into one table. And that's another thing I need to know before you even before we go any further, is to play responsibly. Always put a limit on yourself before you even go on the casino floor. Be sure to just put a limit on yourself. That once you hit that mark, once you've hit your bank, you stop. You don't come back there. You go somewhere else. Don't even play another game. Just walk away. And I know it's tempting to keep playing, but if the game if it's not going your way, don't bother. Just save your money for another day. There's going to be other times where you'll get to play. But all right, so when you get to change, there'll also be a casino card. The Grand Sierra Resort has their casino cards, and I highly suggest you do that. And because when you play table games, you'll get comp money, which you can use on either food or their gift shop. And also, when you're playing the slot machines, usually when you play them, the slot machines, like every dollar earns you a certain amount of points. And that multiplies depending on, usually there's a promotion. Like every Thursday, I think they multiply the number of points you earn for every spin on there. And also depends on what level you are. Like I'm on the purple level, the second level up. But anyway, so yeah, I highly suggest you do that. So when you get your money, once you get your change, you're going to get a set of chips. Now, each of the chips are going to be color-coded by their denominations. Like for me, I like I said, my bank is usually $100. So when I get my chips, it'll be something like this. It's a stack of red chips. This is 20 chips. Each of them are $5 denominations. And I know it's not like what you would picture, something like you'd see at the World Series of Poker, but this is $100 worth of chips. Others like I don't know, I forgot what color they used for this one. Like I think it was green that they did this with. Green at the Grand Sierra is 25 chips, or $25 per chip rather. So those are like more when you get to the high rollers. But you usually get these when you're getting quite a lot of money, when you're really hot. But for simplicity, we're just going to focus on the red chips, which are usually $5 chips. So this is your, and be sure you keep an eye on these. Make sure it stays close to you. And also, whenever you put down your bet, now for our purposes here, the white chips here, we're going to use these as $1 denominations. Whenever you put down a bet that uses different denominations, your higher denominations will always be on the bottom. Yeah, this is like something when we get into craps. Remember, higher denominations go on the bottom, just to make things easier for the dealer. All right, let's go into, let's see. We'll start with a basic one. We'll start with Blackjack. Now, like I said, be sure to check each table, as the gameplay can be different with each one. There's two main things you need to see when you're looking at Blackjack tables. Like I said, one of them is minimum bets. For simplicity's sake, we're going to say this table is a $5 minimum bet. You'll also need to look at the number of decks they use. Now, they'll have a device called the shoe, which holds stacks of like multiple decks in there, and they just shuffle all of them in one. Now, generally, I advise to look for the tables that have the least number of decks as possible. That way, it lowers the amount of combinations. Because now, instead of like 4 kings, 4 queens, if you look at something like 6 decks, then you'll be looking at 20 kings, 20 queens. So that's going to be all mixing together. But nonetheless, the tables will have, like if you choose a 1 deck table, they're actually going to have 2, and there's a reason for this. While they have one deck in play, they're going to have another one that's going to be shuffled, and they have an automatic machine that shuffles the whole deck. So while one is in play, there's going to be another one that's being shuffled. Now, whenever a new deck is put into play, they're going to give you a little slip of paper. I'm just going to use this. So after it's shuffled, they're going to ask you to place this somewhere in the middle of the deck, and that is the. Now, the first time, that's to cut the cards. The second time is going to be when the end point is going to be. That's once that card is drawn. At the end of that hand, they're going to reshuffle the deck, and then they'll bring in a fresh deck from the play while this one's being shuffled. Okay, so now when you go in, all right, first off, let me bring up the typical blackjack layout. All right, let's see if you can see that. Yep. Okay, so this is what a typical blackjack table is going to look like. Now, there is some important information on that table that you will need to know. First off, the payout for blackjack. Normally, it pays 3-2, which is what you want to see. Now, the other one, dealer must hit soft 17. Now, why is this important? This can actually be an advantage to the player. Basically, what it means is that, let's say the dealer has, let's say the dealer has a 7 and an ace. So let me make sure you guys see that in the, yep, okay. So when you see this, now in blackjack, ace counts as either 1 or 11. So this can either be 8 or 18. Now in blackjack terms, this is called a soft 18. Which means that this can count as 18, but because this is an ace, it could either be 8 or 18. The reason being is that if a 10 or a face card comes into play, then it has to be an 18. So when it says that they must hit on soft 17, they may have an 18, but they can't stop there. They have to take another card. They have to reach at least 17. Now, of course, anyone that you asked if anyone's played blackjack before, a lot of times they say they have played it at least once. Because it's a simple game to play, and everyone pretty much knows how it works. It's get to 21 or as close to 21 as possible without going over, and of course you have to beat the dealer's hand. Now, the last thing on there is insurance. Now, let me explain what that is. Now, when at the start of the hand, the dealer will have one face-up card and a face-down card. Now, if an ace comes up, and let's say it's like this. Okay, so you got an ace. Now, you only know that it's going to be, right now he has 1 or 11. Now, this is where insurance comes into play. Now, insurance, they're going to ask you whenever the ace is up. It's basically saying that if you put a side bet, so that means you have to ante up another one of these chips. You're saying that the dealer has blackjack. Now, I generally advise against this because the chances of the dealer having blackjack is not great, because you have more number cards than you do face or tens. So I generally advise against taking insurance, because if you lose that bet and he does not have blackjack, you lose that chip. You won't get it back. So the best thing to do is just let it go. Just keep playing. Now if you were now if that face down card is a 10 or face card, then he has blackjack. Then the dealer wins. Now that insurance, it gives a payment of 2-1, but considering the house advantage on that bet, it's just not worth that risk. So like I said, there's more number cards there in the deck than there are faces or tens. It's like if it's like a 2, so then he has either 3 or soft 13. So you would lose that bet. So my advice: never take insurance. All right, now let's go into the actual gameplay. Now, the dealer, after shuffling the deck, as a matter of fact, I better shuffle mine. I got to get rid of these. There's no jokers in the deck, so we shuffle. Well, of course, this will already be shuffled when you get into the table, because like I said, they have that automatic machine that shuffles the whole thing. And one interesting thing while I'm doing this is that every once in a while they will they will put fresh decks in there, a new pack of cards every once in a while, and this is to avoid having marks on the card that a skilled player could see, and they could tell what that card is. But they do take those used cards, and they at the Grand Sierra, they take them and they actually sell them in their shop. Okay, so let's see. I'll just do this one more time. Okay, so when you... All right, so you place your bet, and it's going to be in one of those little circles. Okay, and let me switch cameras so you can see better over here. So you're going to place that on one of those little circles right in front of you. So you're going to be dealt these cards. So okay, so in this example, I have a good hand here. A king and a 10, so that's 20. So that's a very good hand. You're close to 20, and so whenever you have a 20, you always stand. For those who don't know, there are several things that you do. The simple things are either hit, which you signal by tapping your hand on the table, or scratching the table. I can either way will work. Or you stand, which you just wave your hand over your hand. Now sometimes they will deal the cards to you face down. If they do, the proper etiquette is to handle it with just one hand. And now the reason for this is to avoid. Of course, there's players that are going to try to cheat. So they try to minimize the chance of that by just having the players handle it with one hand. But usually, from my experience anyway, if they are doing like one decks, you won't need to handle those. So in this example, it's easy. Just stand. Always stand on a 20. Now, of course, there's going to be many combinations. Now, you're allowed to do this. there's a table, there's this, or a little sheet of paper that tells you what you should do in each situation, and you're allowed to do this, and you can ask the dealer if they have one of these. Those are the basic strategies. Now, of course, the challenge in this one is that the dealer has a face down card. We only know this one card, so we just had to assume what he has. Now, if I had something like, let me see. If I had something like this, now that is more difficult because you got a 13. Like I said, you have to assume that the dealer has a 10 because despite being more number cards in the deck, there is more of a chance that he has a 10 under there. Now, generally, a 16 on the other side is not that bad, because if he has 16, of course, he has to hit, and chances are he's going to bust. Now, if that card, on the other hand, was a 10, now that's more challenging, because now you have to assume that he has a high hand. So with a 13, of course, you got to hit, and of course, you're going to bust at some point with stuff like this. It will happen. So if you hit and you draw a queen here, you bust. That's okay. That's going to happen. Sometimes that the hand just doesn't work for you, but sometimes it will pay off. Let's see, like here, if we get a 5, so you got 18. So this one you want to stand. So anywhere between 17 and 20, you want to stand. And under there, well, he would have had a blackjack anyway, so the game would have already been over. So, yeah, that's another thing I need to mention, is that if he has a 10 or a face card, he will check under the face down card, and if it's an ace, the game's over. Everybody loses. Now here's another example, and I'm gonna let's see. I need a combination here. Let's say we got a 4, and where's the other one? And a 7. And I'll just throw down something else. Okay. So let's suppose the dealer has, let's see, he's got a 9 and a face down. Now, 7 and 4. Now, there was a reason why I brought these two up. Now, of course, I already mentioned your basic options are to either hit or stand. There is one other option. If you have a 10 or an 11, you can double down. Basically, what that means is that you double your bet. You add another chip, and they will give you one card. That's it. Once you have that one card, that's all you're going to get, and you're just riding your hand on that one card. But when you have a 10 or 11, this is advantageous because you have a great chance of getting 20 or 21. So in this case, yep, we've reached 21. So then we just have to see what the dealer has, 19, so we win. And of course, the deal is the dealer pays 1-to-1 for wins. So we got $10 here, so we get $10. And of course, for blackjacks, like I said, you have usually it's a payment of 3-to-2. So if you get blackjack, let's say you got let's say you got a bet of 10, so you would actually be getting $15. And in a case that your minimum bet is 5, they'll pay $5, and they have a 50-cent coin. They usually have those. You don't usually see those out on the streets, but they give these 50-cent coins So let me see. I've been trying to make sure I didn't miss anything with Blackjack, because it's pretty simple. It's pretty much all the basic stuff you need to know. Once again, if you want one of those tables to tell you what you should be doing, you can ask the dealer if they have any of those tables, and they'll be happy to provide them to you. And keep in mind that even though you're playing against a dealer, they are working to try to help you. If you need advice from them, feel free to ask. They'll be happy to help you. And one other piece of etiquette, especially when you get big wins, you can tip the dealer and just give them a chip, however amount that you want to tip them. But usually what they would like for you to do is play a hand for them. So instead of just tipping them, you can play a hand for them. So just put a chip right beside you on another one of those dots, and those will be for them. And generally, they said that they want you to play a hand for them. That they prefer you do it that way, but they'll be happy to take tips as well. Okay, so that's basically Blackjack in a nutshell. So let me reset my stack here. All right, so we're back to our 100 stack. Okay, let's see. What other games do we have up here? I'll go over a couple of poker games. Everybody pretty much already knows what Texas Hold'em is, so I won't bother going into that one. There, you got stuff like 3-card poker, which is, as it says, you get a 3-card hand, and you are going to try to get the best hand possible. But unlike what you typically see with regular poker, there is actually a different rule for this. You don't draw on 3-card poker. Instead, what you actually do is that, let me shuffle the deck first. All right, this is another one of these games where you're playing against the dealer. So each of you gets 3 cards, and you have the anti-bet. So that's the chip that you put in before you play. So now you look at your hand. All right, in this case, this is not a good hand. It's a 9 high. So your options are to fold. So that's basically just give up, and the dealer gets your chip, or you decide to play and you double the bet. That's basically all you do. Now in this case, I have 9 high, so this is not a hand I want to play. So I would just fold, and the dealer would get my chip. Now in this case, the dealer would have, ace high, so he would have won the hand. So it was best for me to fold. Okay, so let's do another example. Now, by the way, I'm not going to bother going into bonuses because those vary on casinos and tables. So if you're looking into bonuses, you want to look at the table before you enter. I'm not going to bother covering those, but just watch for them. All right, in this case, it's king high. Again, not a great hand. I would personally fold on this one, see what the dealer had. Well, in this case, I should have played because the dealer has queen high, so I would have won the hand. Now, there is one stipulation. The dealer must have a queen high for the hand to count. If the dealer does not have, if the dealer does not have a queen high, then it's a wash, and we play the hand again. Let me just make sure I got that right. Yeah. So there's no action to play wagers, and the anti-wagers are paid 1-to-1. All right, so let's do one more example of the 3-card poker. Okay, so ace high. All right, like I said, the ante would already be on here. Now in this case, I'm gonna try for it, and I'm gonna play. So I'm gonna, whoops, So I would take another $5 chip, put it on top, and see what the dealer has. All right, so well, we both have ace high. All right, so we both have ace high, so it would be a push. But sometimes I just want to make sure they're not doing kickers. Yeah, that's another thing you got to be careful of. See if they do kickers, because in this case, the jack would be over my 5-4. Okay, so that's basically 3-card poker. Another variant of it is Let It Ride, which is give me 1 second here. Okay, so yeah, another variant is Let It Ride. It's basically 3-card poker plus 2 community cards, cards that everyone uses. And this time, you're not playing against the dealer. Instead, you're just trying to get the best hand possible. And they will pay based on what kind of hand you got. And for a game like this, they usually have progressive jackpots, which requires a separate bet, which is usually about I think it's $1. It's like if you get a royal flush, they pay out the progressive. Okay, let me shuffle this one more time. Now, okay, for Let It Ride, so when you start, there's going to be 3 dots in front of you. So you're going to put 3 separate chips, so $5 chips on each of them. The first one's your anti-bet, and then you have your side bets. Now here's what's going to happen. So I'm going to burn a couple of cards here, and then there's 2 community cards at which everyone plays. So in my case, I got a good hand. I got a pair of jacks already. Now you got, this is one you got to pay attention to the payout rate. In this case, they'll either say pair 10s or better, pair jacks or better. So watch for that. So in this case, I have a pair of jacks in my hand. Now, if you had something like, so in this case, in the game, you have 2 options. One, you can either take one of your bets back, and so you would reduce your bet. In this case, this was 15. I could reduce it down to 10. But in this case, because I have a pair of jacks, I want to do the other option, which is Let It Ride, the name of the game. So I keep all my bets where they are. And then they will flip the first community card, in this case, a queen. Now, even though that doesn't help me, I'm still in a good position because I have this pair. Now, typically you get paid 1-to-1 for pair of 10s or better. Now let's assume that I took this one back. Now, then you'll be asked again if you want to take a bet back or if you want to let it ride. And this is where this second chip comes in. So if you want to take this one back and just put it back down to a $5 bet, you can do that. You can take this back, and then you would have a $5 hand. Or you could just let it ride. Just let it sit there and make it a $10 bet. In this case, I've already had all three of them, and I have no reason to pull it back. So again, I'm going to let it ride. So then the second one comes in. We have another jack here, so now we have a 3 of a kind. So then they check everyone's hands. In this case, we got a 3 of a kind, which is a very good hand for this kind of game. So typically you would get paid out 3-to-1 for a 3 of a kind, and this goes for each of the bets. So that's $15 for each one. So for something like this, you've already made $45 on one hand. And I say that is an excellent hand. Now typically the advice is if you already have a pair in your hand, just let it ride. Otherwise, just keep calling your bets back. But otherwise, if you do have a hand, just let it ride. This one's more of a laid-back game. It's Keno. Now, if you've ever played the lottery, that's basically what it is. You got numbers 1 through 80, and they just pull out numbers. They pull out 20 numbers, and you're just basically marking your card on where you think the numbers are going to be drawn. It's basically the lottery. That's pretty much it. Just give me 1 second here. But they have different ways of betting. They'll give you offers on the bets based on how many you're marking down, how many games you play. So that's another one where you got to keep an eye on the rules of the game. And they often do this 2 ways. They'll either do the traditional way of drawing balls out of the machine, or they'll do it digitally by computer. Okay, let's see what we got next. And next up, even though that I don't have the proper layout for this, roulette. All right, now let me pull up the... All right, so here is our roulette board. Now, it's as far as the chips, it's going to be a little bit different. Now, because there's so many chips in one area, they'll color code it based on whose player it is. You'll be given a certain color, and that'll make things easier. The most important thing about placing bets, and I've made this mistake too. Be sure that that they've cleared the board of bets of their payouts before you place your bet. I've made that mistake once. Otherwise, they're gonna misinterpret the chip. So we got our board here. Now there are certain layouts, but this is a basic one. Numbers 1 through 36. We got some other bets here. You can bet on red, black, odd, even, 1 to 12, 13 to 24. You can bet rows. Whenever you're looking at tables, the main difference will be if they do just a single 0 or if they add a double 0. And that basically has to do with house advantage. If they add a double 0 to the wheel, that gives more of an advantage to the house. Now, despite despite the look of the board, and you may think you're betting straight numbers, there's actually a whole lot of ways you can bet in this game. Of course, the most basic way is just betting straight on a number, which I need to see what the payout is, because I know it is a yeah, so as you would imagine, betting straight on betting straight on numbers gives you the biggest payout, even though that it is the one with the least odds. The odds are against your favor because you're putting 1 in 38 chance that it's going to land on that particular number. So just give me a second. I'm going to bring up the payout table. Okay, here we are. So if you bet straight up, it is it's going to pay 35 to 1, so it gives a bit of a house advantage as far as payouts. So to every one chip, they're going to pay you 35. Of course, they put the probabilities on there, and now this particular table just has single zero, which the probability is going to be 2.7%. But when there is a double zero on the table, there's going to be a bit more of a house advantage. Another way you can bet is split, which is basically placing your bet on the line between two numbers. Now, if you look closely at numbers 16 and 19, you notice how that chip is placed right on the line between them. You're saying you're betting on both of them. Now, the probability is better at 5.4%, but the payout is less. They'll pay out 17 to 1, at least for this particular table. And then we have what we call the street. Now, on the side of the table, if you look on the gray chip up near the top, see by the number 7. Now, if you place your chip on the left side near the middle of the table, if you place your chip there along that number, you're saying you're betting on that particular row. So if you place your bet right next to the 7, you're saying that you're betting numbers 7, 8, and 9. Again, probability is higher. In this case, 8.1%, but it will only pay out 11 to 1. Another one is the corners. All right, so the corners, that's basically you're going to place your chip at an intersection. And this brown chip here is placed right in this intersection between 29, 30, 32, and 33. So you're betting on all of them. And so far, it's given you your best odds yet, 10.8%, but it will only pay you 8 to 1. And then the last one, as far as what we call inside bets, which is basically betting on where the numbers are, the 6 line. If you look, this is a very particular intersection. This will only work on certain sets. This white chip here is currently placed right here between 22 and 25, and in that area where the 13 through 24 and 25 through 36 is. This is saying you're betting both these rows, 22nd Street, 25th Street. And again, this will put your odds at 16.2%, but will only pay you 5 to 1. And of course, there are certain numbers that cannot be bet this way. So this case you would only well, actually I think you would be able to go to the outside. So if you bet on the outside here, yes, you can do that. Now we go to the more conservative bets, which we call the outside bets. Now these cover more broad numbers. Now you've already seen either the first third, second third, or 12th, or the third. Well, yeah, we'll just say 1 through 12, 13 through 24, 25 through 36. So that's basically your betting on that particular third of the table. It will pay. It'll pay 2 to 1 at a 32.4% odds. Same thing with the columns. Basically, same thing. You're betting on a third of the table, but this time you're going up and down. You're going 1, 4, 7, etc. So that's basically the same thing, just a different way. Then the ones that pay 1 to 1, you can play even or odd, or red or black. So, and that's just as simple as that. You're basically betting on half the table, and it's like 1 to 1 odds, or payout rather. But of course, the house advantage comes down to the green number, which is 0, or if they have two of them, double 0. And there really isn't much of a strategy here, because this is all just based on luck. But what advice I can give you, if you notice on the second and third columns, if and take a look at the third column in particular, count up how many reds there are compared to blacks. On that third column, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reds compared to 4 blacks. Now, what you could do is that you can bet that column, and you can also bet on red. That will increase your chance. That will increase your payout. Because if it lands on red, you have more of a chance that it's going to be paying out more to you. Same thing with the second column. If you take a look at how many black numbers there are compared to reds, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 black numbers compared to 4 reds. Same thing. If you put it on the second column and bet black, all of a sudden the advantage would shift to you as far as payout. Okay, so that's basically roulette. All right, let's see what else we got. I think we can do one more. And it is my favorite game. We're going to the craps table. So let me bring out the layout because I don't have it on this table here. So it'll just be 1 second. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm going to move the camera so it'll face me. Okay. All right. Well, actually, let me fix that just a little bit. Yep, there we go. Yeah, because I really don't need to go onto the table anymore because I don't have the layout here. But so now we're going to go into craps. So here is our layout. Now first thing you're going to be doing when you approach the table, of course, like I said, if you don't have chips, Ask the dealer for change, and it will give it to you. And you can set your chips on this particular table. There's going to be like a rail, which you can set your chips sideways, like this. So now how it goes. Now everyone's playing together. It's just you against the dice. That's pretty much it. Now in the game, you have one, what we call the shooter, and that is the person that rolls the dice. Now when that particular person becomes the shooter, and he will continue to be until he sevens out, and I'll explain what that is in just a minute. But when you become the shooter, you are going to be given five. You're going to be given 5 dice. Now, this is close to what it's going to look like. They're going to be red. So they're gonna push all 5 dice to you, and what you're going to do, I'm going to bring it back to myself, and I'm going to. All right, I'll bring it back up to myself in just a minute. I'm just going to show you this real quick. So when you get the dice, so they're going to give you these 5, and you're just going to choose 2 of them. That's all you're going to do. I see a lot of craps players be a little superstitious. Like what I do is that I choose 2 dice that add up to 7. Yeah, this is just you don't have to do this. This is just superstition. So you take 2 dice, and you're going to handle it with 1 hand. This is really important. So so anytime you're handling the dice, it's you can only do it with 1 hand. Again, this is to prevent cheating. So and another thing is that the dice never leave the table. So when you handle the dice, don't pull it over the rail. Keep it over the table for the same purposes. So whenever you throw the dice, you got to make sure it hits the opposite end of the table, and it's gonna look really far. But if you give it enough effort, you'll get used to hitting it on the other side. Like what I do, it's like I throw it like this. It gives quite a bit of speed to the dice, but you can handle it any way you want. The problem with throwing it underhand is that you lob it, and it just doesn't have enough power. All that just goes straight into the table, and it just never reaches the end. They'll usually just tell you on the first time that next time make sure you hit the end of the table. And otherwise, any consecutive ones, they're going to ask you to throw the dice again. So make sure that you put enough power to hit the opposite end of the table. And again, this is just to make sure that it is a fair roll. Okay, so yeah, I'll bring it back to myself now. Yeah, let me tighten this real quick. Okay, so let's go back to the table. So now you'll notice that there's a lot on that table, but I'll go through each of them one at a time. What I will tell you is that there's 4 different types of betting. But first of all, I need to explain how the game goes, because a lot of people I talk to about craps, they don't know how it works because it looks so complex. So how I describe it is that this game goes into 2 phases. One of the things that you want to look for now, of course, on this layout you can't see it, but there's going to be a big button that will either say on or off. When the game starts, that button will show off. Now, this is what I call phase 1. When the game is off, the shooter, their objective is to either roll 7 or 11. So let's say I put a $5 bet. So you roll the dice, and if it shows 7, it's a winner. So everyone on the pass line wins and they get a 1-to-1 payout. If it shows 11, that's a winner as well. Everyone will be paid out 1-to-1 on the pass line. Now, the numbers you do not want to hit are 2, 3, or 12. Those are numbers you do not want to hit when the game is off. Otherwise, that is called crapping out, and everyone on the pass line loses. So once again, now when the game is off, you want to hit 7 or 11. Pretty easy to remember when the game's off. Now, if you hit any other number, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, if you hit any of those numbers, then the game is now on. So this is where we go into phase 2. So when the game is on, that number that you just rolled, your objective then is to roll that number again before you hit 7. So for example, if I roll, let me see if I can do this correctly. Well, that wouldn't work. Give me 1 second here. Eventually it'll give me a correct roll. Yeah, and I know I'm not doing it the proper way, but I don't have a proper craps table. So in this case, I rolled 8. So now the game is on, and the button will be moved over to the number 8 and flipped to the on side. So now I have to hit the number 8 again. If I do that, then everyone on the pass line wins. They get a 1-to-1 payout. If I hit 7 before I hit the number 8, then I have 7'd out, and everyone on the pass line loses, and my turn as the shooter ends. And then the person to the shooter's left becomes the next shooter. Now being the shooter is optional. If you don't want to throw the dice, that's okay. You can just say I'll pass, and it'll just go over to the next person. So if you don't want to shoot the dice, that's completely fine. Again, this has something to do with superstition, but I love shooting the dice. But so yes, so that's basically how it works. So to recap, when the game is off, you want to hit 7 or 11, but do not shoot 2, 3, or 12. When the game is on, if you hit 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, any of those numbers, and to make things a little easier for you guys, those numbers are the box numbers that you see on the top, and I'll talk about them in just a minute. But when you hit one of those numbers, the game turns on, and your objective is to roll that number again before you roll the number 7. So when the game is on, you do not want number 7. All right, so that's basically it. So now let's talk about how betting works in this game. The most basic thing to bet on is the pass line. That basically means that you're betting that the shooter is going to win. So if I put a $5 bet on the pass line, I'm saying that the shooter is going to win. So if he rolls a 7 when the game is off, then I win. Then I get a $5 payout. If he rolls an 11, that's also a win. I get a $5 payout. If he rolls 2, then he crapped out. I lose my bet. If he rolls 3, I lose my bet. If he rolls a 12, I lose my bet. Now when the game turns on, whatever he rolled, if he rolled 4, then I have to hope he rolls the 4 again. If he rolls a 9, then I want him to roll the 9 again. And so, but if he rolls a 7 while the game's on, then I lose my bet. So that's basically the pass line. That's all you're doing is just betting that the shooter is going to win. And it's always a 1-to-1 payout. However, there is a side bet as far as the pass line. And this is what we call playing the odds. Now, I'm going to tilt my camera down one more time so you can see. And I'm going to turn the camera back over here. All right, so let's say that this is my pass bet. So this is on the pass line. So now there's a side bet. You're basically raising your bet, and this is what we call playing the odds. Now, there's a reason for this. So if I put $10, I'm gonna put $10 right behind my regular bet. Now, the reason why you would want to do this is that while this gives you a 1-to-1 payout, this one pays you true odds. There is no house advantage with this. They will pay you based on the probability. And of course, with this, so when I talk true odds, the payout is going to depend on what the player was shooting for when the game was on. If he was shooting for a 4 or a 9, they're going to pay you 2-to-1. Of course, if you were 6 or 8, then that payout's going to be lower, but it's still true odds. So I would always advise you to put a true odd bet right behind your regular bet, but only do this whenever the game is on. Okay, so now let's go back over to the table. So once again, the true odds bet will be just based on what the roller was shooting for when the game was on. All right, so and I'll talk about the don't pass bar in just a little bit, but first I want to go into the other kinds of bets. The second level of betting is betting the boxes. So that's basically 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Those numbers that you would get when the game is on. And as such, these options will only be available when the game is on. So you're just basically putting a bet on them. You're just betting that the roll is going to hit that number. And this is a consistent bet. So basically, this bet will stay there until the shooter sevens out. So if he hits that number, you can keep that bet. You can keep that bet there if you want. If he does not roll that number, don't worry. That bet stays there. Nobody wins. It'll stay there. But the payout will be dependent on what number you've chosen. 6 and 8, they have greater odds of being hit but give a lower payout. 4 and 10 have a higher payout but have less probability of being hit. And that's because of the combinations that are required on the dice. Because with 4, there's only 2 combinations that can... let's see. Actually, 1... 2, yeah, there's only 2 combinations that can hit 4. With the dice hitting 1 and 3, or if you roll doubles of 2. All right, let me fix my camera real quick. Okay, so basically, that's pretty much what it is. You're just betting that number is going to be rolled. That's pretty much all there is to it. And it'll stay there until the shooter sevens out, or you tell the dealer to give you your bet back. So yeah, you can call that bet back at any time. Now, what I like to do is that whatever the number is rolled, I go with a number that has equal odds for it. For example, if the shooter rolls a 9, I'm going to place a bet on the number 5 because that has the equal probability of being hit. So I'm basically doubling my odds that I'm gonna win. Of course, I am putting more money at risk, but considering that the odds of 7 being hit, even though that 7 has the most combinations, but it's not major odds. I think it's like, I need to see what the odds are of rolling a 7. I think it was like 30 something. But that's usually what I like to do. So if a 9 is rolled, a 9 or a 5, I will place my bet on the opposite number. If a 6 or 8 is rolled, I'll do the same thing. Or 4 or 10, same thing. If it rolls a 10, I'll go for the 4. Other bets, you have the field, which covers quite a lot of numbers. It covers 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that's a lot. So it's covering the numbers that have less odds. It will not cover 5, 6, 7, or 8. Now, sometimes you'll hear the stick man that we call him yell out nicknames for these rolls. Like if the 9's rolled, he'll yell out center field 9. That's in reference to the 9 being in the center of the field. Or sometimes he'll say fever 5 or no field 5, because 5 is not in the field. Now this gives a 1-to-1 payout unless it is craps, if it's 2 or 12. And the payout will depend. For the Grand Sierra, both 2 and 12 will pay 2-to-1. They used to have it that if it hits 2, it pays 2-to-1, but if it hits 12, it pays 3-to-1. They've since put that for both numbers go 2-to-1. Then we go to the third level of betting, which is the cum bar. You see, right in the middle, you see that the word cum. Now, basically what that is that you're just playing an entirely new game. That's pretty much all that is. It's just like betting on the pass line. You're just playing a whole different game. So if there is a game going on right now, like if the game is on and it's on, let's say the number 9. Let's say you bet on the cum bar. So it's like now you're playing an entirely new game. So let's say that if the roller, let's say he rolls a 5. If he rolls a 5, then your bet moves over to the number 5. And so you're hoping for the shooter to roll the number 5 before he hits 7. If he hits the number 9, the pass line wins for that particular game, but you don't. Because you've played an entirely new game. Your bet's going to move to the number 9, but you don't win. So that's where some confusion can go in. If he rolls number 7, though, the pass line loses, but you win because you've played an entirely different game, and it's just like betting the pass line. So you actually win 1-to-1 odds because you bet on the cum bar. Now, if the shooter rolls 2, 3, or 12, you lose that bet because he crapped out. But the pass line, nothing happens. That's another thing I forgot to mention. When the game is on, if you roll 2, 3, or 12, nothing happens. The game continues. It's like nothing happened at all. The only number you'll have to worry about is number 7. So if he hits 2, 3, or 12 when the game is on, don't worry. Nothing happens. You don't lose anything. Unless you bet the cum bar, you will lose on that bet. So yeah, basically just remember that the cum bar is just like playing an entirely new game. And then we have some more complex bets. We have the hard way and one roll bets. Now, it has the nickname No Man's Land, because these are bets that where the house has a big advantage. Now let's start with the hard way bets. That's just basically saying that you're betting that the shooter is going to roll doubles. That's all it really is. Now, unlike the other bets over here, these are not one roll bets. So let's say on this table, rolling double sixes or double eights will pay 10 to 1, while double fours or double tens will pay 8 to 1. Now, let's say you put a $5 bet on double sixes. Now, if he rolls, now in this case, we rolled a 9. In this case, nothing happens. You don't lose your bet. It'll stay there. If you roll, okay, so this one, we have a 6, but it's not doubles. This one, you lose your bet. If it's not doubles, then you lose. Now, the reason why the double sixes and double eights pay higher, have a higher payout than fours or tens, is because that the sixes and eights have more combinations to make up a 6. You either have 1 and 5, 2 and 4, or double threes. With, let's say, a 4, as I said before, there's only 2 possible combinations to make it up. 1 or 3, or double twos. Now, while the odds of the number 4 coming up are low, you have a 50-50 chance of it being doubles. Same thing with the number 10. I tend to avoid this type of bet, but this is the one time where you're allowed to have $1 bets. Let's see, the one roll bets. I advise you not to go in that area. One roll bets are as they say. These bets will only last for one roll. We have any 7. Which you're just better off betting on the pass line. That one gives a was that? I think it says 5 to 1 odds, but you're better off going on the line. Then you got the horn, which is basically you got 11 or craps. Then you have certain craps. Let's see, like craps 3 will pay 15 to 1. Craps 12 or craps 2 will pay 30 to 1. But of course, the odds of hitting that are so low, it's just not worth going into. So I generally advise not going into the one roll bets. The only one other type of bet I have not covered is the don't pass bar. This one is the complete opposite of the pass line. You're betting against the shooter. You're saying that he's going to lose. And again, this is 1-to-1 odds, and you can bet true odds on this. However, it won't pay as much because you have a better chance of winning compared to the pass line. And in general, it's not good etiquette to bet the don't pass bar because you are hoping that the table is going to lose. So I generally do not bet on the don't pass bar. I stick with the pass line. And that's the basic strategy of craps. Always bet the pass line. Let's see. Is there anything else I need to cover with craps? But same thing. If you want to tip the dealer, you can put a bet for them, and it'll work the same way as I talked about with Blackjack. And you can do that either with a pass line or you can do it with the hard way bets. or the field. You can place it wherever you want. But yeah, dealers generally they rather you play the game with their bet instead of just tipping them outright. Is there anything else I need to cover with craps? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, I think I've covered some basic games for you guys. So yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about a few of these games so that when we do have Biggest Little Fur Con in October, hopefully, you'll know how to play these games and how to properly approach the table, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. So if there's any, if you have any questions, you can post in the comments, and I'll do the best I can to answer that for you. But this is just a handful of games that are played in the casinos. I played the more well-known ones, but there's plenty of others. But do your research and just figure out what is the house advantage. That's the most important thing you need to find out. Like I see people playing what we call the big wheel. I do not advise playing that game because that one has a big house advantage. So I know it looks exciting, and that's it's flashy. It's really exciting. People love these chance games, but this is the kind of game that you got to watch out for, because this is how they get you. They're gonna be looking for flashy stuff to try to get you to play, and that's something that you got to fight. One of the biggest things about being a casino player is discipline, and that's why I stressed at the beginning of the stream that you have to put a limit on yourself. You got to fight that temptation whenever you go. Have fun, but play responsibly. Okay, and we went exactly 90 minutes. This would have been a great panel, but I know someone else already does that. They probably had a panel set up for Biggest Little Fur Con for this year, but there's usually someone that teaches these games. All right, but I think that will cover it for tonight. But if you want to learn about anything else about the casino games, or if you want to know something about Biggest Little Fur Con, I'll do the best I can to answer those questions for you. In the meantime, just stay safe, everyone, and I will talk to you guys later. I'll try to come up with something else to keep you guys occupied. But till then, have a good night, everybody.